Now, how does a festival of chocolate sound to you? That's what Paris has on offer this weekend for the annual Salon du Chocolat. Hundreds of chefs from 60 countries touching down here in the French capital to tickle our taste buds with some of their best and most unusual creations. There'll be chocolate dresses, sculptures and workshops. But the main, of course, simply is plenty of tasting. Speaking of which, Bertil Akesson of Akesson's Chocolate joins me here in the studio. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. I see you've brought with you some of your own chocolates. Tell us a bit about what we've got here.
Here we have some chocolate I make from my beans my beans that I grow in Brazil. I have cacao plantations in Madagascar, 2,200 hectares in Madagascar, and then another plantation in Brazil. And I supply pretty much all the top chocolate makers in the world. And at some point, I was so fascinated by the difference of tastes that they could get with the same beans that I wanted to give my own interpretation of my beans. So I started doing my own chocolate back in 2009. And it's really about the plantations, about what we grow. So, of course, cacao, essentially. But we also grow coffee, peppercorns, other crops. So I use the chocolate as a link between all these crops. So this is a plain chocolate, pure cacao, but we also do chocolate and coffee, chocolate with peppercorns. And
now, what does that taste like, chocolate with pepper?
Yeah, we have one that is very, very punchy, black pepper. Another one very subtle, all about flowery and fruity notes.
You know, I think if I'm right, you don't have with you any milk chocolate. I don't think you produce any. Tell me, what's your view on milk chocolate? Is it just for the unrefined palate, just for kids, or is it all right?
No, it's all right. They're very good milk chocolate. I have two in my collection of 12 bars, and one is darker milk chocolate, 55%, so dark milk, we call it, made with the Brazil beans, very smooth, and it's a nice bridge because it's a high cacao content for a milk chocolate, and I think it's a good bridge for some people to get from some very milky chocolate to something more serious about cacao.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about that because how do we tell what makes a good quality bar of chocolate? Is it simply the percentage of cocoa in there, or is there more to it?
Not at all about the percentage. It's about good ingredients, like every food. So it's about good cacao. You cannot have a good chocolate without good cacao. What is good cacao? It starts with good genetic, good terroir, but also there's a whole process behind it. We need to ferment the bean, dry them properly. There is this process. And if you miss one step, that's it. It's not good anymore. So that's the part of the grower. And then, as a chocolate maker, you need to roast the beans properly. You have the whole series, conching, but also tempering. There are, again, many steps, and you miss one step, that's it. So that is good chocolate.
Let's talk a little bit then about the cocoa industry more broadly. It's a huge sector worth some $100 billion. It's long battled, of course, though, with reports of exploitation in the fields in cocoa plantations. How do you ensure that the chocolate that's produced is fair and is cruelty-free?
Well, in my case, I have my own plantations, so I have my own sourcing, so I know what I'm doing, and I can trace everything, and we have some certifications to prove that. My clients, it's really for the fine chocolate industry. From Verona, that is the smallest industrial, but still industrial, it's my biggest client in terms of size of the company, to other company like Guittard or in America. And then all the craft chocolate makers in Europe and America, in France, from Pralu, Bonnat, to Alain Ducasse, to really all the big names in Belgium, in America. And so they want to have, to be sure that it is good in terms of how we treat our employees, and that we don't use pesticides. So we have organic certification. We're certified Fair for Life, not Fair Trade because we're not traders, but Fair for Life. So it is checked. Plus they come and they see.
Generally, though, that we know that there are problems with the cocoa industry. What about environmental issues, for example, like deforestation? We know, like big brands like Nestle, they've acknowledged that there is a problem, but really it looks like more work needs to be done.
You know, very frankly, 75% of the chocolate is made by 4 big multinationals. It's 80% of the chocolate is sold in supermarkets. It's the big multinationals that are certainly behind this. There are definitely environment. I think chocolate is too cheap. It should be a treat that is not so easy to have. A bit more expensive. You should consume less, but better quality.
As we do with meat, in theory.
Sorry?
As we do in theory with meat.
Exactly.
Let's talk then a little bit about the way that your chocolate is produced. I know you said you have plantations in Madagascar, in Brazil, in Indonesia, but I believe your bars aren't actually produced there. They're produced here in France.
I produce it in France.
So why is that? Why can't you produce the bars in the countries where the cocoa's grown?
You could, but, well, some do it. Mostly it's when a country has different altitudes, often like in Ecuador or in Madagascar. The cacao grows on the coast in the tropical environment, but the chocolate is made in mountains because of humidity. And in my case, I'm between countries, so I centralize in France. And another reason is that I really like the French tradition. I'm half Swedish, but half French. And my discovery of chocolate was in France, and it is French chocolate, adding cocoa butter in the French tradition to make it smoother. And I think the best chocolate makers are in France. It's a beautiful country for craft food in general.
Tell us very briefly before you leave us, is there any truth to the idea that chocolate, dark chocolate, could be good for us?
It's just so good for the taste and the aromas, but a good dark chocolate it's very healthy, and it's a wonderful treat for the palate.
All right, you heard it there then, viewers. Chocolate can be good for you. That's the message of chocolatier Bertil Akesson, who joins me here on the set.